We have two members of the Public Safety Committee here, so I'll go ahead and call that to order. Tonight, October 16th at 7:08 p.m. The first agenda item is the approval of the minutes. I did not see them in Granicus, though, so maybe we can defer that until our next Public Safety Committee meeting, and then move on to the resolution at issue, which is Resolution 2023-43, basically about adoption fees for animals at the Lakewood Animal Shelter. I believe Captain Eschweiler is here. I tried my best. I think that's correct. Okay. I've met you many times. When this is the first time in a public meeting I've tried to say your last name, so I appreciate you bearing with me. Because Chief Fisher is out of town in Columbus this evening, and I believe we also have some of the animal control officers here. So I guess at this point I'll just open it up to Captain Eschweiler to go through the proposed ordinance, some of the reasoning behind it. We do have, while this resolution was referred to the Public Safety Committee, it was also referred to the LASWAB, and there's a representative here this evening, and they also produced some written questions that we can go over. But at this point, I'll just throw it over to the police department to kind of explain the ordinance and explain the changes that they're proposing.
I just kind of learned about this tonight, or actually today, but I spoke to Chief Fisher briefly just about, I think they're just trying to increase the fees to stay afloat with all the things we do with the animals down there. And actually, our animal control officer, Supervisor Jack Crawford, is here, who can probably address that even better. If I can call him up to the podium for any questions you may have, or Jack?
Absolutely, come on up. We've spoken over the phone about some cats, so yeah, nice to see you in person, and yeah, absolutely, and welcome your comments on the proposed resolution.
Thank you. Currently, our rates to adopt an animal at the animal shelter is $50 for a cat, $70 for a dog. That was raised up probably 7-8 years ago from 35. So it went from 35 to 50. Our current cost to spay or neuter a cat, to spay a cat is $74.50 per spay, to neuter $69.50. So at our current rate of $50, we're losing a lot of money. So the proposal was to raise those rates to $75 per cat and up to $100 on a dog. Keep in mind, very rarely do we adopt out dogs. We don't get a lot of dogs into the shelter for adoption, so therefore, the $100 on a dog is probably a fair price. The $75 that we want to charge, the new fee, is still probably below the APL and the standard rates throughout the city. So I think we would still be offering the best deal in town by adopting cats out at $75.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee or other members of council? Councilperson Keppel.
Thank you. Thanks for being here, Jack. Thank you for being here. So I just had a question. So that we also have to do some vaccines, right? Is that correct?
Well, that's included in the spay and neuter price.
Okay.
The APL, when we send them down to the APL to be spayed and neutered, they give them a synergy shot, and that's for their fleas and ticks, and they have their first vaccination bundle that's included in that price.
Like with rabies and that sort of thing?
They get a 1-year rabies shot, first vaccination, and the synergy for fleas and ticks. They also get a free first vet checkup. There are 2 local vets that they go to, Lakewood Animal Hospital and Detroit Dover, which they get a free first vet checkup if they make an appointment within the first 30 days. And when they go to one of those vets, they usually get like a physical exam. And they used to do a second vaccination, but since COVID, I don't know what they do with that now, but I'm sure they do the physical exam. So that's also included in that $75 adoption fee.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the $75 doesn't really even cover that cost, right? So we're still being pretty generous because we would also be feeding the animals.
Right, by the time you pay for food and litter and housing, yes, that's 75 is still probably under the actual cost of housing the animal until it's adopted. Some can be there for months, some can be there for a day. It just depends on how much traffic can come in and how many people, you know, if there's a cat or a kitten that they like it, they go home. But 75 is, we still get people calling wanting to know if we can give them a discount. So I think at 75, we're still meeting the public's needs and still being the best deal in town.
Sure, yeah, we're not trying to make money off of them.
Well,
I mean, it'd be nice to come closer to break even, but we're not selling. So I did have another question too, in terms of how, is there like an average length of stay that you would say, like we were saying, like some of them stay for a week, some of them stay for a month? Do you have any sense of
now,
that?
when they go up for adoption, they're up for adoption.
Okay,
So they're there till they're adopted. I mean, we get a bad rap because people think we're a kill shelter, feral cats. But when a cat is healthy and friendly and goes up for adoption, it's up for adoption until it's adopted. It's not, we don't put a time limit on it, and we don't say, oh, it's going to, 3 months, it's going to go. It's there till it's adopted.
Thank you, Animal Control Officer Crawford. And I think if there's no other questions from the committee, I believe we don't have anyone sign up for public comment, but I do know that I believe Erin McDonald is here from La Swab, and she provided some written comments to the committee, but I also welcome her if you would like to come up and discuss them, or are you comfortable with that, or would you rather us just keep the written comments? Pardon?
No, I'm done. Unless you have more questions for me, I'm done.
We may, but
All right,
sure.
I'll be in the back. Thank you.
Hi. I'm Erin McDonald. I'm the chair of the Lakewood Animal Safety and Welfare Advisory Board. We discussed this at our last meeting with Jack and with Supervisor Crawford, and we just had our board had 3 questions and comments about it. One was that I know now Supervisor Crawford has a lot of flexibility on the fees, that he can offer a discount or a special promotion to encourage the adoption of older or bonded pairs of cats that are waiting to be adopted. So whatever the change in fees is, we just want to make sure that he maintains that ability to, you know, clear the shelter and give a special offer, or keep 2 cats together that are doing well together and that sort of thing. Just when it's necessary, you know, at his discretion. Another question is, or just a comment, is that it is definitely the best deal in town, and we have always thought that the raising the fees was a good idea. I think we've recommended it before, and I know that Elaine, the former supervisor, recommended it at these amounts, and we think it's great. And we haven't made a formal recommendation because we just haven't had a meeting to officially vote on it, but everyone's in favor of that. Our question is just about whether those funds, I don't know if the funds now for adoption fees go into the general fund, and if they're being increased to help care for the animals. We just want to know if and how they would be brought back into the shelter, those funds. And we just would want to make sure that that happened.
Great, thank you. And is there any questions from the committee of Ms. McDonald? No, and I would refer that question to Director Rankator or Captain Eschweiler as to what happens when, I mean, currently we already charge, right? So where did that money go? Is it dedicated to a particular purpose, or does it just go in the general fund?
As Councilwoman Keppel mentioned, that we definitely operate at a deficit when we're taking in the animals and caring for them. It all goes into the general fund, and it's just going to be commingled with the other general fund causes. And of course, we're doing our best to make sure that the animal shelter has all of its needs. We do meet annually with every director and every division head as we go through the budget, and, you know, talk about each of the needs throughout the year. So we do want to make sure we do take care of the animal shelter, and it is funded in the general fund. That's where the funds are going to go and stay.
Thank you. And I guess, Ms. McDonald, would you, Is the derivation of that question that you'd like to see money dedicated to the shelter?
I would just want to leave it as a question, I guess. I don't want to, I don't want to say what to do. I just think that if, the reasons that Chief Fisher gave, that it could help cover the spay-neuter surgeries, however long they're in the shelter. I know that, it's not a lot to ask for an adoption fee, and I just want to make sure that the shelter maybe has a corresponding budget increase or something, because if they're being raised for that reason, then I just want to see the shelter have a little bit more of the benefit of it. But those were just our discussion points. And then one other thing is some other shelters or organizations do have higher adoption fees, but they do provide SNAP testing, which is like, I think, a $39 or $40 test. I don't know if Lakewood offers the vet checkup within 2 weeks of adoption, but when they go for that, can they get the SNAP test at that free vet check? Is that part of that?
No, it's not. They would pay for that themselves.
Okay, and like our shelter doesn't do that because it's a blood draw and it's more complicated, so we're not suggesting they do, we're just saying that the adoption fee be in line with just what's being provided in the bundle of the surgery and the vaccines and everything.
Thank you. Councilman Bullock?
Thank you. Couple questions. First, a comment to the finance director and the representative from Lakewood Police. I think it makes sense what Chairwoman McDonald is, how do you like that, Aaron? Very formal. Yeah. Chair McDonald suggests, makes sense to me, that we're talking about a fee increase of $25 and $30 times however many adoptions we do per year. That's some revenue. That's small compared to our general fund. That's probably a meaningful operating budget line item for the shelter. So count me as a supporter of that as a policy. Even if it's not written anywhere, I do think we want to invest in the good operation by Jack and by all the volunteers, and that's an important value to our community in every sense. That's number one. Number two, the cost, the letter, I went back to the September 5 letter on the City Council agenda by Chief Fisher. It talks about trying to recover costs, the fact that the fee hadn't been increased for quite some time, that it's comparable to peer shelters. My question is, has anybody considered whether this is going to impact or lower adoption rates? So are we cannibalizing adoption rates by increasing fees? I don't know. That's just an honest question on my part.
That's more probably a question for Jack, but I think our board in general supports increasing the fees, and I can't speak for the whole board, but just for myself, I think it's good to have some skin in the game. If you're taking an animal home, you don't want to give away animals, so it's kind of a qualifier, but that's just speaking for myself.
Okay, and Chair McDonald, while you're up here, if a person were going to buy a pet store animal, puppy or kitten or adult, they'd be paying more than these fees?
Oh, I don't know. Absolutely, Jack says.
A lot more?
Probably, yes.
Okay.
The APL right now probably charges $125 for a kitten, probably about $100 for an adult cat, and then dogs are somewhere in the same area. Again, dogs don't matter. We don't adopt out dogs.
Okay, so
Animal Control, Crawford just said 125 for cats, 150 for dogs, just so those folks listening at home can hear. Thank you.
okay, so the Animal Control Officer Jack, would you mind speaking on the question I'm raising? If we increase the fees, do we have a concern that adoption rates go down, or do we not have
Not
that
to
concern?
75, no.
Okay,
I think if we can start going up above that number, then then yes.
okay.
People come in to the shelter, I greet them, we talk, I show them the cats, I tell them our fee, and they go, oh man, that's so much cheaper than the APL. And
Okay.
so to me, the APL is our largest competitor when we're trying to adopt out our cats.
And the $100 for the dog or puppy, same question.
Right. like I said, we don't adopt out dogs. I'd be surprised, we probably adopt out maybe 2 or 3 dogs a year,
Okay,
so it's not very many. We don't get them in to adopt them out. Most of our dogs that we pick up go home the next day. The owners come down and claim them, so they go home. And then some of them that are unadoptable are sent to the Cuyahoga County Kennel.
okay.
So the other reason of adopting out dogs, there's a long waiting list to get them spayed or neutered because we send them to Pet Fix in Euclid because we get a good price from them, but we could be waiting 3 to 4 months to get that dog in. So it's just much easier we really don't adopt out dogs.
Okay, good context to know. And I guess to return to my comments to the finance director, I know that if my proposal's followed, we're extending the subsidy of the city operation. We certainly do that in other areas such as pools and parks and all the rest. I mean, it's a service to the residents. It seems to me to be very consistently and broadly supported. So I have no problem in keeping those funds invested in this service. Thanks.
Councilperson Keppel?
Thank you. Supervisor Crawford, you mentioned about that was on my list to ask you, was about the difference between price for adopting kittens versus cats.
Yes.
Is it correct to say there's typically higher demand for kittens than an adult cat?
There is.
Okay.
Yep.
So have we thought about potentially having a higher adoption rate for kittens?
I think if we do that, we scare potential customers away because people that come in to adopt, they're looking for a young cat, can't afford a lot of money. So, if they're coming in and they're asking for a discount on a $75 or a $50 fee, they shouldn't have an animal because maybe they can't afford to maintain it. So I think 75 just for cat or kitten is a fair price.
Thank you. I'm not on this committee, so I can't make the motion, but I would be in support of the idea of the chairperson, Shaughnessy McDonald's point about allowing Supervisor Crawford the flexibility to, have everything must go sales or whatever you need to do to make sure that cats get adopted out. So, and I don't believe that is currently written in. So I don't know what needs to happen in order to address that.
Yeah, and I would direct that question to the law department. I assume that under the existing resolution, animal control officers were able to do that. So but I don't know if that's correct or not. And if they aren't, then what will we have to do in this particular resolution to allow that?
Thank you, Councilman. Through the chair, I think the presumption is there is flexibility with the shelter to offer those types of programs. I don't know if it's a fact, but that's the presumption. And the question is whether this resolution impacts that prior experience, and it does not. There's no restrictions in this resolution. So if historically we've been able to offer those types of opportunities, there's nothing in this current resolution that would modify that or restrict it.
Thank you. And then to Animal Control Officer Crawford, have you historically been able to do that?
I have been able to do that in the past. If I have bonded 2 kittens that came in, they were in there, we had them a week, and someone came in and said, oh, I'd really like one, and I said, you know what, it's $50 for one, I'll give you 2 for $75. And because I wanted to keep them together. And they, okay, I'll take that deal. So I got rid of 2 cats and was able to do it versus paying the $50 per cat.
Well, I guess from a perspective of past practice, and thank you to the law director for clarifying that this resolution doesn't stop that. So I think we would be able to continue to do that.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I mean, if we want to, I don't know where the original authority comes from resolution or an ordinance somewhere buried in. I mean, we could pretty easily just say animal adoption fees are hereby established as a maximum of, or to be no more than. So, what do you think?
I will entertain that motion.
Okay.
Since you're the only other committee member here.
Yeah, let me see here. I will move to amend the resolution to read, where it says, Section 1, that the animal adoption fees are hereby established as follows to be no more than, and then there goes the colon, or, well, I already said as follows, or no more than as follows. Let's go with that one.
The motion is to add
No more than,
no more than to section 1 at the end before the fees.
yes, or wherever it grammatically makes sense.
Yes. I will second that, and it's approved, because there's only 2 committee members here. Is the law department okay with that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
It was already approved, so.
Yeah, I guess I should have asked before it was approved. And furthermore, from a perspective of, so since council referred this to LaSwab and Public Safety, LaSwab still has not given a full recommendation. They had questions, and they actually meet later this week. I would, for efficiency's sake, like to refer this out of committee so that it can be considered on the full council floor. And I would suggest that if LaSwab has a formal recommendation, that before we vote at the next full council meeting, we can discuss that on the floor. So at this point, I would request a motion to refer the amended ordinance out of this committee for full adoption at City Council.
So moved.
Second, therefore, it is approved. And at this point, in time, I'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you.
Yeah, take care.